Good evening and welcome to the Town Council regular meeting of November 18th, 2025. I don't have to tell you what a beautiful evening it is. You already know that as soon as you walked in the door. Thanks for being here. Let's start with the council roll call, please, if the town clerk would call the roll. Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vance.
Here.
Councilmember Dellinger.
Here.
Councilmember Behringer. Here. Councilmember Singleton.
Here.
And Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Thank you. It's my privilege this evening to get to lead the Pledge of Allegiance and then the invocation. If you would join me standing up and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Stage fright, stage fright. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Usually from that point, I'm used to going straight to the Boy Scout pledge on my honor. But that was a different day at a different time. Invocation tonight, I'm going to go back in time to what I mentioned before. My third grade teacher, Miss Bass, often started the day with the word for the day and then a little story to go with it, and I never forgot a lot of those. Our word for today is citizen, and the little story I have to go with it, it was about a week and a half ago. I had the privilege of doing a ribbon cutting at a business in Garner called Prime Brothers Butcher Shop. Just a wonderful family business, great people, their kids, their wives, their parents were all there, all their cousins, the whole neighborhood, just a wonderful, wonderful business. And as I was chatting with them, I said, well, you know, one of the great things about your business here is that we'll never, ever send you a bill for any property tax from Garner. And he said, well, why is that? I said, well, you're in Johnson County. You're not even in the right county to be able to be. And he said, well, I thought we were in Garner. We have a Garner mailing address. Then a whole conversation ensued. Somebody else said, well, I went to Garner schools before I moved out here, but now my kids play ball. And then somebody else, well, I have a business in Garner and I work in Garner. And the discussion went like that. And finally, I said something very profound, like, well, if Garner's in your heart, then you're a citizen of Garner. And I felt pretty good about that. Until a few days later, I was at another event when an elected official there heard me say the word citizen in conversation. He said, we don't use that in our town anymore because we have some residents here who are not citizens and we want to be all inclusive. I hadn't thought of it that way. I've actually had friends and family members who lived in America who were not citizens. So I kind of knew where it was coming from. But then a few days later, the Youth Leadership Council from Garner High School and South Garner High School were here having one of their events. And I said, there's a pop quiz you didn't know about today. I'm going to ask you to help me understand what it means to be a citizen of Garner. Two young ladies raised their hand. First one said, well, it has to do with being a responsible member of your community. I said, well, I like that. And the other one said, if you love Garner and you feel you're in Garner, that should be enough. I said, wow, this is right out of the playbook. And I said, now who can tell me the difference between a citizen of Garner and a citizen of the United States? And another young lady, she said, that's a very different thing. You're either born in America and become a citizen, or you're naturalized, which is a very specific process of getting to be a citizen. I said, wow, you're really on top of it. So, am I going to call them citizens or residents? I don't know. But if I accidentally say citizen, I'm not trying to exclude anybody. If I say resident, I'm not trying to take away from their participation in the community. If you come up with the right answer, let me know. Email me and let me know which is the right one. But we're all glad to be here, part of Garner. Glad to have you here as citizens, residents, neighbors, friends. Thank you for being here. That being said, we'll move right on to Part B, petitions and comments. And I'll ask the town clerk if anyone has signed up to speak.
No, sir.
Okay, well, that saves me reading all this stuff highlighted in yellow right here so far. Let's move right along to item C, which is adoption of the agenda this evening, which is rather extensive. I hope council members have had a chance to look this over, look it over. If there's no discussion, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. I would ask all council members who are in favor of adopting the agenda, please to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Thank you. And now one of my favorite parts, presentations. And tonight we get to issue a proclamation recognizing November this year as Hunger Action Month in Garner. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to present a proclamation to Amy White of Community of Hope that we joined for the No Lunch Day the other day, which was quite inspirational. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to ask you to join me at the podium there for a moment. And so let me read this. Hunger Action Month in GarnerNC, November 2025. Whereas 1 in every 6 children in the state of North Carolina is food insecure. And whereas there are 126,000 individuals who live in a food insecure household in Wake County, including 33,550 food insecure children and 29,053 food insecure senior citizens. And whereas in the town of Garner, over 50% of the children who attend a Garner area public school would qualify for the free or reduced price lunch subsidy program, and those same children may possibly go without a hot breakfast or lunch in the 185 days that school is not in session. And whereas there are multiple faith and civic organizations in the town of Garner who mount individual year-long efforts to fight hunger in our community, including but not limited to Community of Hope Ministries, Angie's Restaurant, Butterball LLC, Garner Midday Rotary Club, the Capitol Church, Garner Area Ministries, Juniper Level Baptist Church, Turner Memorial Baptist Church, Backpack Buddies, and Meals on Wheels. And whereas the reduction in federal funding, food supply chain issues, and significant inflation have plagued food pantry and food resource outlets, placing financial pressure on those locations to continue to be able to provide quality and consistent access to nutritional items for families in need. And whereas food pantries have documented a 70% increase in the cost of purchasing groceries over the last year to protect food inventory supplies. And whereas the citizens of Garner are generous people who through both private and public efforts share their abundance to join hands and hearts to fight against hunger. And whereas on this 5th day of November in 2025, a group of interested citizens and business leaders have gathered at Community of Hope Ministries in the gymnasium at the First Baptist Church of Garner to participate in the No Lunch Lunch, a soup kitchen style lunch offering only a bowl of soup and a roll to its guests. And whereas at this No Lunch Lunch, Community of Hope has elevated the awareness of real and present food insecurity issues facing Garner's most challenged families. Therefore, be it resolved that on this 5th day of November 2025, I hereby resolve that November be declared Hunger Action Month in Garner, NC, in recognition of all of the efforts already offered by many individuals, faith, civic, and businesses to eliminate hunger in the Garner community, and all of the efforts in the coming few weeks that will be dedicated to helping families experience temporary relief from the stress of poverty during the coming holiday season. Be it also resolved that in all future years, November will always be recognized as Hunger Action Month, and that a charge be made to our town and its citizens to join hands, hearts, and resources to fight food insecurity in our community. In witness thereof, I have heretofore set my bond and caused the great seal of North Carolina to be offered this 18th day of November with my personal signature. And as I come over to join you at the podium for the photo op, I'm going to each of the council members for any comments or questions that they'd like to make. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Vance. If you've got some comments to make, if we can go this way.
Oh, yes, I'd like to say that the statistics for those individuals who are hungry right here in Wake County is just staggering. And we are doing, I know that Community of Hope and other organizations are doing all they can to support this endeavor and to go through the no food lunch. The particular event we had, just to go and have a bowl of soup and just to reflect on the number of people and kids who are going to school who are hungry. It's just staggering. So I would just say for us to be reflective of that and remember that many of us are blessed to have more meals than we need, but there's someone out there who is going without. And I would like to say thank you, Ms. White, for all that you're doing and all the other churches and organizations for everything that you're doing to help fill that gap, to help feed the hungry.
Yeah, just thank you for everything you do and all the other organizations that do what they can, and all the residents and citizens who do what they can, and anybody and everybody in Garner who thinks of others oftentimes ahead of themselves. So thank you.
Amy, it makes me think about the years ago when my daughter worked at the summer camp at First Baptist, and she knew you. She now manages the Haywood County Harvest Hub, Smoky Mountain Harvest Hub in Haywood County. I wonder if your influence helped her get there. Thank you so much for everything you do. It is so mind-boggling, staggering, the need, and we appreciate so much what you've stepped up to do.
Yes, Amy, thank you for your many years of service and the opportunities that you give folks in the community of Hope. I was working at the polls. A lady came up who volunteers at GarnerNC Ministries. She said, the need is greater than ever. She said in the month of July, they served 94 families. The week before, which was the third week in October, they served 94 families in 1 week. And so the need is there. It's in Garner, it's in Wake County. We can be the #1 place to live and all that, but you also have people who are hungry and some are homeless. But thank you for what you do.
And it is Thanksgiving season. This is quite a unique time to be talking about this, and we got so much to be thankful for. And Amy, we appreciate you taking the leadership, and as well as all the other organizations that the mayor read off on there. I know you're big time in Angie's down there. Thanksgiving Day, they'll feed thousands of people down there a Thanksgiving meal. But just keep on doing what you're doing. You take one step at a time to deal with these things, and a lot of us come up hard and didn't realize how good we had it, but there are those out there without. So keep waving the flag, and we'll join in with you.
Thank you. And as Mr. Mercer is making his way out here for the photo op, before I make the actual presentation, if you have a few words you'd like to say or comments you'd like to make.
Well, since I have spent some time in public service, I know not to hijack an agenda with a 10-minute speech. Let me just share my thanks and for your support. But this resolution is not about Amy White or about Community of Hope Ministries. It is about the many, Mayor, you call them citizens or residents, and we call them friends, that join hands and hearts all across this amazing community to reach out, to fill the gaps and the holes for families who are suffering. Not only does it occur in the church, civic, and individual community, I'd also like to raise a mighty voice for our corporate citizens who have given resources of ther own. Every major retailer, big and small, but the big box folks like Food Lion, Lowe's, Target, Aldi, Lidl are all supporters of our particular food pantry. But it's not just Community of Hope, it's all of those entities that were listed on the resolution and many more that I'm not aware of that see the need and feel that need. So I want to also recognize the town of Garner, who hadn't started their food drive when the resolution was crafted, but the town of Garner also heard, they saw, and they responded. Many people hear and they see, but it's very unlikely for folks to take the extra step to move into taking action. And that's what the town of Garner did recently when they decided to have a food drive across all of your departments, and those are being shared with like-minded agencies across this community. And so I want to thank you for seeing, hearing, and acting. So thank you for your time. We appreciate you. We look forward to continuing to serve the community.
Thank you. And if Mr. Mercer is ready, please join me.
Can't go that way.
Move the chair, we're back up.
Thank you.
Okay, and back to the program. Let's see, the next item on here is item E, the consent agenda. And this contains 3 different items that are more routine in nature. Have they been looked at by staff and I think by council as well. We often approve these kind of en masse. And if no council member wishes to remove any of these items for more detailed discussion, I would accept a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion, any need to think about pulling any of these items off? That being the case, I would ask that all in favor of adopting the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, the consent agenda is adopted. Thank you. And now we jump into our public hearings. We have several. These are legislative hearings, and these are public hearings that are legislative, which do not require sworn testimony. However, all persons interested in speaking must sign up with the town clerk. Town staff will present a brief presentation, followed by the applicant and other persons who wish to comment on the item will be recognized to speak. The council requests groups of individuals with the same position to designate a representative to speak for the group. We have several of these. The first one is 1.1 is the E-District Incentive Agreement, and we're going to call on our Economic Development Director, Nate Groover, to give us a little overview here, sir. It's all yours, Nate.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity to present tonight on an exciting project, first phase, E-District Phase 1. So the E-District Phase 1 is the first phase of an approximately 225-acre medical anchored mixed-use activity center. The initial phase includes 100,000 square feet of retail along with 280 multifamily units. And just as a reminder, that retail will include a national grocer and all the associated development that comes with this project. The proposed project will build public infrastructure that will support the development of the E-District, including the Wake Med campus, which we were at the groundbreaking for last week. The proposed project is likely to encourage and promote other types of positive development for the town of Garner. It's very important to remember there. So again, E-District Phase 1, we were all at the groundbreaking, or most of us were at the groundbreaking. So this is a picture of the Wake Med Whole Health Campus. I know that we're all excited to see come up out of the ground. And then moving on to our grant. So with the investment grant, the North Carolina General Statute authorizes the town to undertake an economic development project by extending assistance to a company in order to cause a company to locate and expand its operations within the municipality. Our business investment policy specific to the town is designed to stimulate the local economy, promote business, create, retain permanent new jobs in the town, and increase the property tax base and revenues. And again, it's important to remember that but for the town's incentive grant, this project would not happen. And also very important to remember that this policy applies to the fact that there's no upfront money given, and this project falls fully within our investment grant policy. And again, the company makes the investment and then it receives the reimbursement. Yep. So again, the grant's dependent on the company making the improvements. The grant funds are provided to offset the investment of the public infrastructure.
and the grant will begin after the first tax payment is made on the improvements to the site. The grant is capped at $5 million net present value, and again, the grant requires that all or part of the economic development incentive will be returned or forfeited if the company does not fulfill its obligations. So closing us out here on next steps, conduct the public hearing and hear comments, and then adopt Resolution 2676, authorizing the town manager to negotiate and execute an economic development incentive agreement with E-District Phase 1. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we have representatives from the company here to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was a honor and privilege to be out there for the groundbreaking the other day for the Wake Med Center. When word got out about that, seemed a lot of other people started putting it in gear a little bit. That's going to be a beautiful project along with the other potential clients that's going to come in. It's really going to be great for the town as well as jobs for our residents here, or as whatever the mayor wants to call them this week. We call them residents. But I think it's a great thing, and I'm looking forward to supporting this action.
Thank you. Mr. Singleton.
Yes, a great day last week with the groundbreaking, and we know there's more to the project than the Wake Med project. There's other pieces to the puzzle, so glad to get it all started.
Thank you. Ms. Behringer.
I would echo what my fellow council members have already said. This was a lot of work and a long time in the making, but look at the results. We broke ground, and we're getting ready to continue development and make this piece of property what Garner needs to have there.
Thank you. Mr. Dellinger.
Yeah, I just want to say it was great to be out there, and it's great to hear about all the other state and federal and local partners who've also contributed to the build out and infrastructure of the project. I just have one kind of a quick question. In Exhibit A, there are references to the full scale of the project, but this is just for Phase 1. And so
correct.
this will all be tied to just Phase 1.
Yes, sir.
And not contingent upon the performance of any further phases.
Correct. Yes, sir. Just Phase 1.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vance.
Yes, for Phase 1, the current total investment is, do you have any idea how much that is versus?
I don't have that figure on me on top of my head right now, but I'll get that to you.
No worries. And the incentive for the Phase 1, again, is $5 million?
Yes, sir. Capped at $5 million.
Okay, all right, and this will be going towards infrastructure,
Yes, sir. Public infrastructure,
meaning what?
roads, sewers, so infrastructure like that will help provide the required infrastructure, obviously, for the whole development.
Gotcha, okay, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I'll ask our town clerk, have we had any individuals signed up to speak?
Yes, sir, we have Jack Dunn.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack's with the company, so
Oh, okay.
he's here to answer any questions you may
Okay,
have.
he is part of the applicant here.
Yes, sir.
Would Mr. Dunn like to make any comments or address the council?
No comments necessary, but I just appreciate the opportunity to be here and what Garner's done to help facilitate this project.
Thank you, and we're glad to have you involved in this project. A lot of moving parts coming together. Just the exciting, very exciting tip of the iceberg. I see this as a great step forward. Let's see, with that then, we will close the public hearing, and we'll move ahead with a possible motion and a possible vote on approving that particular article there, Resolution 2627 of 2025. That being said, if there's a motion and a second, then we can have some discussion. Is there a motion to adopt and approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Matthews, second by Mr. Singleton. And is there any other discussion that we need to have about this item here this evening? Okay, hearing no further discussion, I will call a vote. It seems pretty well received here. I think we'll go for a voice vote. All those in favor of approving Resolution 2025-2627, authorizing the town manager to negotiate and execute an economic development incentive agreement with E-District Phase 1, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Great. This is an exciting thing. Thank you very much, council, and thank you, Nate, And thank you, Jack, very much. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move right along to item 1.2, voluntary contiguous annexation related to Duke Health. And Mr. Jeff Triesenberg, our planning director, will be the main presenter on this particular item. Mr. Triesenberg.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. We have two annexations for you tonight. The first one is case number ANX 2517. This is for the Duke Health Medical Site, which is here on the corner of Timber Drive East and the old New Rand Road. There is a little portion of the property that is already annexed in, so this will bring in the balance of the property as well as some additional intervening right-of-way along Timber Drive East. So that will total 23.03 acres for the actual development site and nearly 4 acres of right-of-way. This is a contiguous annexation, so there is not a need to consider any of the satellite standards, and we do have the ordinance attached for you. Again, this was originally an approved site plan, SP 2118, approved back by staff on November 15th of 2022, but of course, as you heard from them, they did have a little bit of a pause, but are now looking forward to proceeding with that project. So this will be the last step for this project to come to you all for an approval.
Okay, that being said, I'll recognize council members who might wish to make comments or ask questions. And let's start down with Mr. Vance's end this time.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Reference to construction, has that already started?
Yes, they actually started on some of the groundwork some time ago, but had not gone vertical yet. So
Gotcha.
that is, they are picking back up.
And it's about, what, 2 years timeline? Do you have an idea roughly? Any thoughts?
I want to say it's maybe closer to 18 months now at this point.
Okay. Will there be any access coming off of Evolve? Will they have any access? Anybody knows? If not, then no
There is
worries.
cross access that comes from the adjacent parcels. So as that develops, those will connect through.
One last question. Will it do, for the TIA, will that pose a warrant for a light at Evolve and 50? Do we have any idea yet? If not,
I don't believe that it did. I think there were some improvements that were called for at the Benson Timber Drive intersection itself. And there was some working out of that with a state-sponsored project to do some offsets and trades and fee and lieu toward that project.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. Mr. Dellinger.
No question.
Ms. Behringer.
I know, just a comment, it's been a long time coming. We have been waiting, and it's exciting to finally see it coming to pass.
Indeed. Mr. Singleton.
A curiosity question. I believe there's some access from one of the businesses being built on 50 now that will go through that property to be able to access out onto Timber Drive. Is that still, that was originally talked about, is that still in the plans?
I know there has been some talk about where this old New Rand stub, currently it doesn't connect through right there at the northwest corner of the site. I think there has been some question as to whether or not DOT would permit a right-in, right-out for that. I'm not aware that that's been resolved.
Okay. All right, just checking.
Yeah.
No, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matthews.
Jeff, you might not know the answer to this. Is this initially talking about clinic, then there was scuttlebutt about they're trying to get, step it up to have more of a hospital with the rooms and what have you. Has it been any feedback or any updates on that, or do we know?
All that I'm aware of is that they are proceeding with medical office, so the medical office building typical things. So there may be an urgent care, primary care, and specialty physicians. There was a certificate of need, I know, that was submitted for a few hospital beds. I don't know that that's gone anywhere yet at this point.
It is not going forward. So the current plan that was presented recently, Mr. Matthews, is to move ahead with the 2 medical office buildings.
Yeah.
That term really baffles me, a certificate of need for a hospital. You know, we need all the beds we can get, and somebody up the chain somewhere saying, well, you got to give us a certificate of need. almost like an oxymoron. I'm sorry. I don't get that one. Maybe someday they can explain that to me. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I'll ask our town clerk, has anyone signed up to speak tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. That being the case, I will close the public hearing then, and we'll have a little discussion about possibly approving the annexation petition. Any other observations or questions, or is there a motion out there?
No further discussion. I'm ready for a motion. I move that the ordinance 20255371 be approved.
Second.
Adoption ordinance.
Second by Ms. Behringer. Okay, now we can have some more discussion. There's a motion and a second. Any other observations or questions from council? Any discussion on approving this annexation? It has been in the works for quite a while. This is a logical step. We are very excited to hear Duke say they're going ahead with, I'm going to call it phase one. It's the first building. I think there's still room for a second building. And who knows, Mr. Matthews, someday they may get a certificate of need and they can put some beds in that building. Only time will tell, but that's where we are today. So the motion's been made and seconded to approve petition ANX 25017 related to Duke Hospital. Sounds we have pretty close attention on this one. And let's have a voice vote on this. All in favor of approving that annexation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, that's unanimous approval. Thank you very much, Mr. Triesenberg. Wow, and here's another voluntary contiguous annexation coming up in 1.3. This one likewise has been through several steps, and we'll go through the step here tonight. And Mr. Triesenberg will also be the presenter on this one about Bethel Green.
Yes, just very briefly, this is ANX 25018. This is for the Bethel annexation of the Bethel Green project. It is 138 acres of site development, no additional right-of-way to be annexed. This was originally approved in a rezoning request by the Town Council, CZMP 2307, back on November 4th of 2024. Most recently, the subsequent subdivision, major subdivision process was completed with staff review by TRC. That was case number SB 25001, and that was recently approved by the TRC on September 23 of this year, 2025. So again, you see the site here, just south of New Bethel Church Road. There's actually not frontage on New Bethel. It actually comes here off of Bending Creek Drive, one of the entrances, and then several other stubs from the adjacent project will serve the site as well. Again, we have a ordinance prepared for you for possible approval. But again, that's what I have for you on the annexation. Again, this is the last action required of the council to move forward.
Okay, so that's the end of that
Yes, sir.
presentation. Are you finished with that? Does the applicant wish to make any statements along with this? Yes, please introduce yourself.
Mayor Gupton and members of council, I'm Ann Anderson. I'm with the Morningstar Law Firm. I think you're familiar with our firm on this project from the beginning. I'm happy to be here with you tonight with the development team for this project, and I believe the planning director has stated all the salient facts, but we are here to answer any specific questions you may have. The experts on the property are right beside me, so but I'll not take any more time unless you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand by.
Yes, sir,
Now,
absolutely.
You may have
I'm happy to be here.
You may have tweaked somebody's curiosity just one more
Absolutely.
time. And,
Okay.
and I'll start over again at Mr. Vance's end and come down. Any further questions, observations on this project?
No further questions.
Okay, Mr. Dellinger?
No questions, just observations that I'm going to vote no on this because it is one of those R8 exceptions where it's a misuse of the R8 zoning with a density that is inconsistent with the adjacent neighborhood in scale and density. is not located near any commercial whatsoever, contains no commercial whatsoever, and based on that is a misuse of the scant transportation and traffic density, traffic capacities of White Oak Road and Highway 50. That's all.
Okay. Ms. Behringer? Okay. Mr. Singleton?
No questions.
Mr. Matthews?
No questions.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. You're dismissed now. For the
Thank
time
you,
being,
sir.
we may think of
I'm
another
right,
question.
I'm right here should you need me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I'll ask our town clerk again, have any individuals signed up to speak on this item?
Mr. Mayor, it looks like the individuals who signed up are with the development team.
Okay, so they've had their say, and they're quite happy with the spokesperson they've had so far. Thank you. Don't want to put words in your mouth. Okay, that being the case, then we will close the public hearing. I will accept a motion and see if there's a second to have further discussion. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 2025-5370.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Matthews, a second by Mr. Vance. Now we can have some more discussion. Any other things we should be taking into consideration here? Any more observations?
I would just like to say, Mayor, that for this particular project, it was the applicant volunteered a number of affordable housing units to be initially a part of the project, and which became, I would say, a point in which we began to understand the process of houses being included in the development process and the uniqueness of that, and how that plays into our affordable housing program that we're currently, philosophy that we're trying to put together. And I just want to say thank you to them for just reaching out and doing that. It really gave us robust discussion and points to discover how housing within a development process works, and the advantages and disadvantages of it. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Other observations, questions? Okay, hearing none, we will call for a vote, and let's go for the good old roll call vote on this one. And let's start with Mr. Matthews, who made the motion. And this would be if you're in favor of approving the annexation petition ANX 25018 for Bethel Green, please signify by saying aye, or if opposed, by nay.
Aye.
Mr. Singleton?
Aye.
Ms. Behringer?
Aye.
Mr. Dellinger?
No.
Mr. Vance?
Aye.
Okay, it seems to pass by a 4-1 vote there. That one is approved. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, boy, we're moving right along at record time tonight. We're down to 1.4, a general rezoning, GZ 25001, 8401 Old Stage Road, and our presenter tonight from our senior planner, Julian Griffey. Julian, take it away.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Town Council. I am, again, Julian Griffey, the senior planner for the town, here to present to you a general rezoning, GZ 25001. Please note that this is a general rezoning, meaning that there is no site plan specific or any conditions associated with this petition. So I just wanted to briefly go over the glance of the petition that was submitted. This is the applicant is Lynn Gregorio, who's here in the audience today. And the owners of the property are going to be Lynn as well as Joseph Gregorio. The petition that's been put forth, again, is a general rezoning request submitted on behalf of one of the property owners to rezone approximately 0.74 acres from unincorporated Wake County being a residential 40 watershed zoning district to the petition for a residential 4 town of Garner zoning district. Please note that also this rezoning is aligned with an annexation petition that you may see in the future. That's going to be number ANX 25016. Looking at the current zoning in context, as I had mentioned it before, this is in Wake County. It is the residential 40 watershed zoning district. This particular zoning district does often accommodate primarily residential uses, as well as some commercial and industrial uses also. The current use, from my understanding, is going to be an existing single-family dwelling. Looking at it into the proximity, the general vicinity, the surrounding land uses are primarily low to medium residential land uses. It is also going to be in close proximity to the Eagle Ridge and Whitecroft Manor neighborhoods. Going beyond the town limits and the ETJ, The other land uses within the general vicinity are going to be within the county, and those host single-family dwellings as well and vacant lots. While the property is not within a particular activity center, there is a community activity center located a little bit to the southwest at the intersection of 1010 Road and Old Stage Road. Going into the proposed zoning, again, potentially petitioning to join into the town limits and get that R4 zoning district that is requested. This R4 zoning district is in similar ways to the existing R40W zoning district within the county. Again, this zoning district primarily goes into residential uses. However, there are other uses that are allowed within this R4 zoning district. It is noteworthy, though, that the existing R40W zoning district within Wake County accommodates roughly about 40 uses by right or through a special use permit. Within this particular zoning district they're requesting, it would go down to 17 uses permissible by right or through a special use permit. As I had mentioned, that R4 zoning district within the town of Garner accommodates suburban residential development, typically at a moderate density, primarily consisting often of detached single-family dwellings. Within the general vicinity, let me see, I'll go into this in a second. Within the general vicinity, the zoning districts that are nearby do range from RA, resident rural agricultural, on up to an R2 and then the R4, conditional that Eagle Ridge community hosts. Per the regulations, as we all know, a neighborhood meeting was required. The applicant has submitted that documentation, which was, it occurred and was hosted at the Southeast Regional Library on August 28th. Per that documentation, it was shown that no one was in attendance, although there were some commentary and questions inquired via email. That notification radius at 800 feet yielded about 110 properties that were contacted via certified mail. So going into the framework, naturally when we have rezonings, we do reflect this against our 2023 comprehensive plan. This particular case was interesting because this case did not have an assigned land character type as well as a development intensity type. So going into the comprehensive plan, usually we would reflect that against the consistency. However, the different spin that we took on this particular type is that there is a land character type and a development intensity type directly across the right-of-way on Old Stage Road. So while it doesn't have an assigned character type or a development intensity, it was kind of taken into account of if it was assigned a particular character type or development intensity, it would probably be insinuated that it would be of a similar stature, being that single-family residential, low to moderate density, similar characteristics as the character types that are directly across the street. That being said, those character types that are directly across that right-of-way are neighborhood area, and they're also areas to strengthen. So again, assessing it based off of those two characteristics, it was found to be consistent. To go further in depth in that, and it is more so in your staff report, what we could directly reflect it against was the framework or the growth framework criteria. So 3 of those 15 were reflected and applicable and found to be in strong support. Again, as I just mentioned, that character type and that development intensity type isn't applicable or isn't labeled on the comprehensive plan within this particular area. But again, taking into account what's directly across the street, knowing the attributes, knowing the characteristics of those land uses, and being of similar densities, it was found to be generally consistent with the general vicinity of the subject site. Pertaining to next steps, this would be conducting and wrapping up the public hearing. Following this, it would go to the Planning Commission, or recommended to go to the Planning Commission for their consistency assessment, as well as recommendation to approve or deny. Then it would be obviously brought back forth to y'all to ultimately get your determination of reasonableness and your decision to approve or deny, coinciding with that annexation petition that will ultimately come before you. More than happy to answer any questions. I know that was potentially a lot to digest. The applicant is also here in the event that you do have any questions pertaining to her specific proposal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Griffey. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation or a statement?
As we, she's shaking her head no. As we had conversed earlier, she's more than happy to answer questions, but there's not a presentation or a specific document to be shown before y'all.
Okay, please stand by. Some of our council members might have a question or a comment or two. That being said, we will move ahead to council members. for comments or questions, and I believe it's Mr. Vance's turn to kick off down here and come this way.
Okay. The purpose of the rezoning is because they are currently on septic and will like be connected to water and sewer?
So often when annexations obviously come in, the town can certainly provide some utilities. And I personally wasn't in that pre-application meeting, and perhaps you could come up and speak on behalf of that, but I believe that the intent is to ultimately connect to some form of utilities that the town can provide.
Yes, I think in the report it stated something about the septic system and things of that nature that currently is on the property.
Yes, I believe in the neighborhood petition that was circulated and submitted on behalf of the applicant, there was a page pertaining to septic on the site.
And there are other properties in close proximity that are connected to water and sewer as well.
I would suspect, granted I don't have the map particularly in front of me, but what you see here, and just generally probably more so on this page, that tan section, that's going to be unincorporated Wake County. So I believe that there wouldn't be utilities within that general area.
All right, good deal.
Mr. Dellinger.
I have a question. They wouldn't need to rezone to get the utilities. They just need to annex, correct? So my question is, if the intent is a single-family dwelling, why you would need to rezone to do that? Is it because of the R40W, or what's going on?
Correct. So from my understanding, annexing would ultimately allow them to have access to utilities, assuming they could be provided. Ultimately, rezoning, switching from one district to the other. Again, have not having direct conversations with the applicant in that pre-app. I would assume, and what I witnessed in the difference between the R40W and the R4 that's requested, one of the big things that people like to rezone on behalf of is going to be like adjustments to setbacks. So one of the first things I looked at was the difference in setbacks. In the event that it were to be redeveloped, the setbacks are a little bit shorter, and perhaps my director, Triesenberg, might have some commentary as well.
But it's basically 3/4 of an acre, so I don't imagine a single-family home would have setback problems.
Right. The biggest thing is that with the need for the utility service comes the need to petition for annexation. If you're petitioning for annexation, you need to ask for zoning that is under the town's list of zones, whereas currently it's a Wake County designated zoning district. So if we were to annex it without doing a rezoning, the existing Wake County zoning would disappear after 60 days, and there would just be no zoning at all. So you are seeing this general rezoning first because of the way our public hearing process is set up, but it's all driven by that request to connect to utilities because the existing utilities are failing.
And two other questions. So the specific uses they're requesting are in that full list of what's permitted in that zoning, correct? Even though their intent is to do a single-family home, why would they not restrict it? They're doing a simple rezoning for a single-family home, ask for that one use.
That is an option. It was just not an option that was selected.
I have another question too. When I go to IMAPs, the owner is listed as a Madison Womble LLC, and then there's an adjacent property of 2.49 acres that also owned by Madison Womble LLC. Who is what? Madison Womble LLC. So they're rezoning only one of their pieces of property, not the full 3-some acres. I'm going to think on that for a minute. I'm done with my questions for the moment. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was a good line of questions, and it is, we're trying to understand, the big picture and the ultimate goal. Would it be appropriate for the applicant to speak for a moment or two?
Oh, certainly, if she so wishes.
Yeah, bring them both up. Have a tag team. Come on. All right. If you would introduce yourself, name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Lane Gregorio, and my address is in Apex, but yeah.
Okay.
And we're the owners of Madison Womble LLC, and it's just what we do, some residential building and stuff under our business name.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the question that's being asked. Owning the adjacent property that's a little larger, and what's kind of the end game? What's the big picture? Help us kind of see where we're going. Mr. Treasenberg explained this is a first step to be annexed, and I guess our council's question, don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, is, what's the big picture?
Well, and a legal question about applicant, if the owner is legal as a business entity, but what's being presented to us are individual names. Does the applicant have to be the entity that owns the property, or is it just an interested party?
The applicant does not have to be the current owner, but an owner's affidavit has to be provided. So the owner has to consent to this application or any development application being provided.
And that's on file, the business consenting is the owner?
That is something that I'll have to definitely double check. I was under the impression that I guess if she is a property owner under an LLC, that might, affidavit, I would assume, be applicable.
If it's a single member LLC, possibly, but because it would be passed through, but I'm not sure if there are multiple owners to LLC.
So if the property is owned by an entity, then we need a property owner's affidavit from that owner's, and that can be submitted while this is playing out, since there's not a decision to be made tonight.
Okay.
Other than to refer it to the planning commission.
Did our applicant address that a few moments ago? Somebody said, who owns this LLC? Did you raise your hand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's kind of who owns the LLC. And the good question was about where's the paperwork documentation? Are we doing this the right way?
Yeah, and also what is your ultimate intent with the property since you own the 2.49 acres that's not going for annexation or rezoning right now, and then the 3/4 of an acre that is?
Yeah, the reason we did the annexation and the rezoning was because we were told that was the only way we could get utilities, that we couldn't do it with just Raleigh, like the house next door. We have septic and we have City of Raleigh water. So we don't have that need to do the annexation there. While this property, they said we couldn't get Raleigh City water, that we had to go through Garner. And these were the steps provided to me on how to do that. And I've just been following them.
I got you. All right, thank you.
I'm still slightly confused, but if you're satisfied, I'm satisfied.
They're grandfathered in basically on the other parcel, correct? With the Raleigh water, since it already has it?
Correct.
That's okay. I'm good. I'm good. I'll pass the question baton to someone else.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Ms. Behringer? Mr. Singleton?
Just to confirm with Attorney James, you said we had to have an owner's authorization form, correct?
Yes.
And that's in our agenda package. I'm sitting here looking at it.
I'm sorry, what?
That's in our agenda package.
The affidavit is in there?
It says owner's authorization form.
Yeah, I did fill out something like that.
Yeah.
That sounds
And it's
familiar.
notarized. So I'm just looking at it. It said we had to have it, and it's in our agenda package.
Okay. Mr. Matthews? Okay. That was the round of questions there. And thank you for standing up and talking about it. At this point, I guess we'll let you sit down for a moment. Thank you very much. And now we'll recognize any individuals who have signed up to speak. Town Clerk, has any individual signed up to speak on this item?
No, sir. Okay.
Hearing that, we'll close this public hearing. And again, the issue before council this evening on this 8401 Old Stage Road is whether to refer this to the Planning Commission for consistency, review, and recommendation to come back to council for final decision. And certainly there are a detail or two in there that we want a little explanation, a little clarity, and perhaps running that through the Planning Commission will give planning staff time to get these resolved. So that being said, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll see if there's a motion to refer this on to the Planning Commission for review.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to refer this to the Planning Commission to eventually be returned back to the council here for final action. So that was made by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Ms. Behringer. Is there any further discussion on that motion?
I'd just like to send the Planning Commission maybe narrowing the scope of use for the property from the full allowed in the zoning that more matches exactly what they want to do with the property. But that's my only comment.
Okay, would you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, just to maybe consider narrowing the scope of uses on the use table for the rezoning.
As it goes through the planning commission
Yeah.
review, take a little better detail. Yeah, this is a slightly different process than we're seeing, but we're just trying to get along here, trying to work through the system by the rules. Mr. Vance, another observation?
I've just, if we're going to narrow the scope, does the applicant have to agree upon that as well?
And yes, if I could chime in really fast, that was one of the things I kind of harped on a little bit more on this. We don't really get general rezoning petitions put forth before the council. So I did want to make that known that the way it's been submitted, the petition as it's been submitted, is that this is not a conditional rezoning. Therefore, while Planning Commission could guide them towards that and have those discussions, they ultimately didn't submit a petition that can be conditioned, from my understanding.
They can or cannot?
Cannot.
Okay.
So to answer your question, if it was to narrow the scope, it would require a conditional zoning, which requires the consent of the property owners.
I will say, I can certainly, next time that goes before Planning Commission or goes before the town council, have those uses that are listed, because counting them earlier, there are 14 within R4 and there are 40 within the R40W. A lot of them did overlap, but the R40 existing had multiple uses that were not permissible within the R4, for what that's worth.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is it safe to summarize by saying, if the council decides to send this to planning commission, as the motion has been made and seconded, then these details could be worked out at
Correct.
planning
Yeah.
staff and the planning commission, and when it comes back, it could be a little more complete, a little more clear. Is that
My understanding was we don't have that flexibility on the basis of the way it was submitted, correct?
Right. We cannot condition them or have them restrict themselves to certain uses. But again, providing, if it would help your decision or the planning commission's decision to at least see the black and white, what's permissible by right now and what's permissible by right within their petition, it might provide some form of clarity for y'all.
So because it would be a restriction and more restrictive than the current application, they probably can modify their application, but they would have to submit that and sign for that.
Understood.
so they could resubmit this amended or more conditioned as it goes through the planning commission and coming back to us.
Right, but at that point, it would change to a conditional zoning from a general zoning.
Okay, is this making sense to you? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Is this making sense to you back here? Okay, good. It's a little different. We're trying to do it the right way. Okay, if there's no other discussion, there's been a motion and a second to refer this on to the planning commission. And let's go for a voice vote on this and see how far we get. All those in favor of referring GZ 25001 to the planning commission for further review, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Full speed ahead with the planning commission. See you again soon. Thank you. Okay, and that takes us along to item 1.5, which is a comprehensive plan implementation, which I understand is kind of a zoning text amendment submitted by Town of Garner Planning Department. And Mr. Triesenberg, our planning director, will fill us in a little bit on this particular item.
Yes, good evening again, Mayor, council members. This is probably the third or fourth time that we've talked about this, either in work session or since we've opened the public hearing. Last time we did a continuation to allow staff additional time to complete the revised graphics that would be necessary to accompany this text amendment. As well as to give y'all any time to come and ask us any specific questions that you might have, if there was things that you wanted to understand a little better as to staff's approach and how this would implement some of the objectives within the comprehensive plan. My intent is not to go through the whole presentation again for you, but compared to the last time you saw it, there are highlighted in yellow in the staff report those items that were changed, modified slightly. So you'll see that the graphics are highlighted in yellow amongst a few other mostly minor things. But I will take a few minutes here just to highlight some of the major things that were included as updates. But just overall, again, we did want to provide you a complete handout of tonight's presentation so that you can take it home and go through it again if that is of help to you. We still have kind of organized the overall presentation into those same 7 purposes that we discussed about it. Again, where we ended up landing with, particularly on the residential side, because there is such a diversity of housing types discussed within the plan, we really felt that it was important to continue to acknowledge that within the UDO and not condense things too much, because there are, I think, 11 or 12 different residential building types, and directly, 10 or 11 of those are addressing things that are just very simply all the way from accessory dwelling units to townhomes. And so when you think about the fact that there's 10 or so different types of housing formats, just going from accessory dwelling units to townhomes, we kind of wanted to keep that same level of scale in terms of how we address things within the UDO. Other rules and factors, though, still are out there. We still have the building code and some of the things that it dictates, particularly for what we can't do with 1 to 4 unit structures. Those are called the residential building code, and we cannot apply design standards to those kinds of structures. We can only apply design standards to those structures that have 5 or more units within them. Private public utility use also kind of factors into that. There's only so dense you can go with private well and septic, as opposed to being connected to public water and sewer. And then finally, I want to reemphasize again, we are in a period now where it is more difficult to make certain amendments on the non-residential side because of Session Law 2024-57, which was the expansion of the definition for downzoning. So we just always have to kind of keep that in mind and put on our creative thinking hats. I know one time before, I think, Mr. Dellinger, you mentioned we might have to start thinking about upzoning, potentially instead of downzoning. And that was that's the kind of thing that we're going to have to try to think about things differently, perhaps, than we did in the past. So again, there's all of those different residential types that are talked about in the plan. We did not make any changes in the Purpose 1 section. That was mostly fairly straightforward, I think, items. When we got to Purpose number 2, one of the things that I wanted to highlight here on this slide, one thing that staff caught was that the comprehensive plan really did make a point to kind of cap the number of townhomes, recommendation of how many townhomes you could string together. I know in some jurisdictions it's not uncommon for there to be 7 or 8, but the comp plan did recommend kind of limiting that at 6, just so you do get a little more feeling of open space, that it doesn't get so monotonous with so many units strung together. So we did make an adjustment there to match what the comprehensive plan was recommending. And then also within the NMX district, we were allowing some of the different smaller scale housing types, but then since we are adding this paired house concept, which again is not something that we really had in the UDO before. We had duplexes, but duplexes are under a common lot ownership, whereas paired houses are actually 2 townhomes They can be individually owned with the land underneath them. And we've seen that as a product, for example, at Auburn Village. So again, just trying to keep that consistent. That was missing in NMX. It seemed to be a gap. So staff, again, kind of caught that, and we've added that in. On the third purpose, again, the R8 district, we've talked about how to better focus that and even how to achieve that higher density that it really calls for, as opposed to keeping it at lower density. And one of the things, again, that staff noticed was that some of the triplex and quadplex type housing types were not included within that R8, and you almost need to have those. It's very hard to get an R8 density with just single family detached. If you can get 7, you're probably doing real well. So again, minor change. We were already allowing some of the triplex and quadplex, those that had a slightly smaller footprint. But again, wanted to keep the triplex and quadplex, even if they were a little bit bigger than 2,500 square feet footprint, as something that within the R8 district could help to try to boost that density and achieve what that district really wants. Then I will move to purpose number 4. And again, we had talked about the MFB district, really trying to differentiate what will allow for multifamily in the MFA of kind of the traditional apartments, the garden style, 2- and 3-story walk-ups, but really trying to move the MFB into another district that can implement the mid-rise kind of development, residential. So the neighborhood of probably 3 to 7 or 8 stories max. We did not have any kind of limitation on that in the MFB district. So again, looking at trying to kind of beef that up and set a minimum height requirement within the MFB. So we put in there for now at least 3 stories in height. Also within the MFB, we still had some townhome uses hanging out as being permitted in that district. So we have taken those completely out of the MFB. They are still allowed in MFA, but MFB, we would propose removing those. And of course, then there were the graphics. And again, I don't want to not emphasize those enough. They do kind of give you the idea of the types of buildings that are allowed in each district. But then there were just some general things that we as staff identified in our more intensive review. And so there were a few things that were added, and we just kind of lumped that under purpose number 7, which is kind of our catch-all. The first thing was that there was a minimum lot size for large multifamily in the non-house scale multifamily standards. The reason that minimum lot size was in there was because townhomes were a permitted use, and we wanted to be sure that there was enough land area to accommodate those townhomes. Since we've taken townhomes out, it just didn't make sense to have a minimum lot size anymore. If you're going to have apartments, it's going to require a much bigger lot size than anything that the ordinance was going to prescribe. So that was recommended for removal. Some of the standards around which setbacks and which rules to apply to upper story residential needed some cleaning up. So those were addressed in section 5.6.5. And then also those same dimensional standards for non-residential development in residential districts. So there are some uses, like maybe something a little more intense than a home occupation, but some uses that are allowed in certain residential districts. Again, it wasn't completely clear which standards to use based on which zoning district it was. So just like the upper story residential, we needed some clarity as to, okay, these are the setbacks, these are the height limitations, these are the density limitations for those types of uses if you're in one zoning district versus another. And then there was just a need to clarify access to lots. It specifically talked about public streets, but we do elsewhere in the ordinance allow for private streets to serve as an equal type of access. A private street does have right-of-way designated, but it is privately maintained. That is a difference between a private driveway. A private driveway does not have any right-of-way. It's just a drive on a piece of property. So that was just a minor thing, again, that also needed to be clarified. So those were the changes since the last full presentation to you all, which I believe was 2 months ago now. So again, the next steps potentially would be to forward this to the Planning Commission for their review and input. I fully expect that will probably take a 2-month at least visit with them to dive into. We'll probably take it in 2 pieces, 2 halves, for them to digest it and give us some good feedback, and then to come back to you for a decision to approve or deny. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions if you have them tonight. Offer still stands. If anybody would like to come talk about these, just let me know. We'll set up a time.
Thank you, Mr. Triesenberg. Great information. I know your staff and you have been working on this hard for quite a while. This is the second or third time it's floated up here. There's always a few adjustments to make based on current legislation beyond our legislation. We have many masters to serve here. We appreciate it. We're also very fortunate to have on, as members of this council, some who are really tuned into these details. They're all detailed, but they're all very, very important. They add up to very important decisions. That being said, I want to recognize council members one at a time for further comments or questions. And I believe it's time to start down to my left with Mr. Matthews. Questions or comments, sir?
Nothing, just quite a presentation. There's a lot to digest here, and I appreciate the time and effort the staff has put into this, and be eager to see how the Planning Commission, how they handle this and send it back up the road to us. So thank you for what all you've done on this.
Thank you. Mr. Singleton?
You mentioned, I remember seeing it when we were talking about it before, we talked about encouraging the update in the R8 district, regardless of footprint, where you can have live-work structures and different types of offices or retail. That's something that we've been talking about. This is encompassing that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Also, I mentioned it as last time about mini homes, and you said that could be considered the accessory dwelling units. And if there was a project with several, like I mentioned, the ones that Raleigh's doing for veterans, 14 units on 3/4 of an acre, that it would be allowed in one of these districts.
Yeah, because that was not a use that we really called out specifically within the plan when we were going through it. Was the tiny house. You know, depending on how somebody might structure that, if you still had a lot that you owned with it, we could still treat it as more of the single family detached. But if we had a bunch of them on a common lot, yeah, we could look at probably a combination of recommendations from both accessory dwelling units as well as just detached kind of apartment units, you know, as a rental. But I feel like, yeah, that we have some guidance we can pull from. It's just not necessarily exact.
Okay, I would just ask because if a project came forward with the tiny homes, that this wouldn't be a big hiccup on a roadblock where we'd have to go through all this just for that specific use. Just if it came forward, there is opportunity there, as you said, to pull together a zoning classification to make it work.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Ms. Behringer?
I have no questions, just appreciate the persistence in working on this and the time spent.
Thank you. Mr. Dellinger.
If a question and your answer can be come sit and talk with me, if that's the answer you need to go. I was reading the definition of multifamily, and then parenthetically it's apartment and condominiums, and then it says 5 or more detached residential dwelling units in a single structure with either shared entrances or shared parking area. Then it says also multiple detached single unit residential structures or 1 or more detached duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes on a single lot. So does that mean we have a scenario where we have single family homes that are considered multifamily?
If there were more than one on a lot proposal, I feel like this first came up when we had that project proposal out on Timber Drive.
Really bad one, yeah.
And communities were wrestling. We did some surveys, and some of them were treating them as apartments and applying apartment standards. Others were trying to be creative and saying, well, it's not single family detached because there's really not lot lines. But in some cases, I think some communities were asking the developer to propose lease lines that they would use to kind of enforce the dimensional standards. So at that time, we had made the decision to go with the apartment because that was a little more clear cut for us as being the closest. So that kind of goes back to your question, Mr. Singleton. We could continue down that road, or we could pivot and address them differently, but we would have to come up with kind of a new way to do that.
Because it seems to then collide with the use table when you have single family detached as a use that doesn't extend into your multifamily. So there's a little bit of a collision there. And also on the parking, shared parking, there's a little bit of collision. So we can sit and talk. I think it's all about, we want variety sometimes, but what you don't want is somebody coming in with 200 apartment, single family attached maybe, and kind of a loophole in what we're trying to accomplish, which is diversity of housing.
Yeah.
So I think we'll sit and we'll talk.
And we'll tuck that away, and we'll do some additional brainstorming as well, because that project was a little while ago, so we'll revisit.
All right, thank you.
Excellent questions. Mr. Vance?
No questions.
Okay, well, very, very good. And again, the issue before the council this evening is to forward this to the Planning Commission. We've heard the first round of comments from council members. I'll ask our town clerk, have any individuals signed up to speak on this item?
No, sir.
Okay, that being the case, we will close the public hearing, but don't go far. Don't go far there, Jeff. We'll close the public hearing. We'll see if there's a motion and a second to refer this to the Planning Commission for review, and then it would eventually come back here. Would give us some time for further adherence to those details there. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Vance and a second by Ms. Behringer to refer to the Planning Commission. Now we'll see if there's further discussion or comments we'd like to make, that council would like to make, to pass along to the Planning Commission as they continue to review this. We'll start with Mr. Vance.
No further questions.
Mr. Dellinger. Okay, Ms. Behringer. Singleton. Ms. Matthews. No further questions there. Okay. Well, we have the motion and the second to refer this on to Planning Commission. Let's go with the old voice vote here. All those in favor moving this text amendment, zoning text amendment, along to the Planning Commission for consistency review and recommendation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you for the good questions. I told you we had some people tuned into the details, Jeff. I think you've heard this before. And this is about the details, but at the end of the day, it's about having better products,
Absolutely.
and better decisions for all of us to make. Thank you very much.
And a big thank you to my staff for the extra time they put in digging through this, and they did a lot of scenario running. So I definitely appreciate all their work.
Thank you very much. And that brings us along to item 2 on the agenda, a quasi judicial hearings.
Mr. Mayor, if I may request, we take a brief recess. I'm not sure everyone has signed up for this quasi judicial hearing, and we have to make sure that we have them signed up so they can be sworn in.
Okay, good idea. We're a little bit short of our regular break time, but this would be a good time to make sure if there's anyone here who wants to speak related to the Yeargan Road Apartments, special use permit, SP 2305, now would be the time to see the town attorney get sworn in during our break here.
Right. We'd ask them to go to the back of the room so the town clerk can get them signed in and get them sworn at the appropriate time.
Okay, let's take 10. Quick recess.
So
Thank
just
you
to
very much.
reiterate, if you're here for the project and want to speak, you'll need to sign in.
Thank you. thanks for returning promptly from our break there. We jump back in to item number 2 with a quasi-judicial hearing. This is special use permit SUP SP 2305, Yeargan Road Apartments. We will hear brief in just a few moments from Mr. Tefelsky, our Development Review Manager. But first of all, let me read for the record all this stuff in yellow highlight up here. This public hearing involves an application for special use permit, which requires a quasi-judicial hearing. Each council member is required to disclose whether he or she has a fixed opinion prior to the hearing that is not subject to change, had any ex parte communications, any close familial, business, or other associational relationship with an affected person, or a financial interest in the outcome of the case. This is a fact-finding hearing, and only competent material and substantial evidence that is not repetitive is allowed. Only expert witnesses based on training and experience may testify as to the impacts on property values, traffic safety, or noise levels. All persons wishing to testify or provide comments must be sworn in by the town clerk, and I believe they took care of that during the recess. The staff report is offered as evidence in the case and will be accepted into the record unless an objection is raised by the applicant or another person withstanding. And at this point, we will recognize Mr. Tefelsky to give us a little introduction here.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Good evening. For the record, Nick Tefelsky, Development Review Manager. This is a continuation of the public hearing that was held back in August. So I have a very brief presentation just to give you all a refresher on very high-level details and where we left off. So this is a request from the applicant for a special use permit for the approval of 257 apartment units in 3 buildings totaling 295,689 square feet on 3 parcels totaling 10.7 acres. The property identification numbers have been provided there on the screen. Property is currently zoned CMX for commercial mixed use, and the property as it stands right now is currently vacant. Water and sewer are readily available along the adjacent roads, and the area is surrounded by a mix of uses, including other apartments. Going to the comprehensive plan, the framework, it's on the edge of a neighborhood activity center. There are also community activity centers to the northwest and the southeast. The land character typology is identified as a mixed-use center. And on the development intensity map, this is listed as a level 3 area to enhance. This is the site plan in front of you. Again, it's a 10.7 acre site. They're proposing 3 buildings, each of which is proposed to be 4 stories and will house a total of 257 apartment units. Going to the findings from the technical review committee, the TRC did find that this is consistent with the town's UDO as long as the conditions that are listed here are adhered to. I'll go through those very briefly. One, that the lots must be recombined with an exempt plat prior to issuance of a building permit. The mail kiosk must be installed prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy. Frontage lighting is required along US Highway 70 as well as Yeargan Road. Prior to the issuance of each building permit, a fee in lieu of parkland dedication shall be paid to the town for each unit. Construction drawings must be reviewed and approved by the engineering department following site plan approval, and applicable fees related to engineering inspections, City of Raleigh, water sewer connections, and nitrogen offset payments must be paid prior to issuance of building permit as well. Just on this slide, we have the 8 criteria within the UDO for a special use permit. We'll come back to these, keeping these on the screen. I guess briefly, I'll go through these. Number 1 would be that the proposed use does not endanger the public health or safety. Number 2 is that the proposed use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. Number 3 is that if completed as proposed, the development will comply with all requirements of this ordinance. Number 4 is that the proposed use is consistent with the town's adopted transportation plans, other relevant adopted plans and policies, and the stated purpose and intent of this UDO. The fact that the use is permitted under certain circumstances in the zoning district creates a rebuttable presumption that the proposed use is in harmony with the intent of the UDO as it relates to the general zoning plan. Number 5 would be that the proposed use is compatible with adjacent uses and proximate neighborhood in terms of building scale, site design, buffering and screening, operating characteristics such as hours of operation, traffic generation, lighting, noise, odor, dust, and other external impacts. Any significant adverse impacts resulting from the use will be mitigated or offset, including impacts on the natural environment. Number 7 would be that the public's safety, transportation, and utility facilities and services will be available to serve the subject property while maintaining sufficient levels of service for existing development. And lastly, number 8 is adequate assurances of continuing maintenance have been provided. I know those SUP criteria are a lot, but you all are familiar with them because you do have SUPs come in front of you from time to time. That concludes my presentation. I know the applicant has a presentation as well. If you all have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer those now. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the applicant team.
Okay, let's turn it over to the applicant. We can always call you back up.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. Worth Mills with Longleaf Law Partners here on behalf of Blue Heron Asset Management, who is the special use permit applicant and the developer of this case. Before I get started, I do have some materials to pass around. One document is from the North Carolina Department of Environmental and Natural Resources, which is now referred to as NCDEQ. The second document is the appraisal analysis done by Kirkland Appraisals LLC. And the last document is a copy of the TIA performed by Rydell Stevenson with DRMP, then Raymond Kemp and Associates. So I'll pass these around. There are 13 copies of each. And then after that, we'll get started. And before I begin our presentation, I did want to request a motion from council to accept all materials from the August 19th town council meeting, as well as all materials from tonight's hearing as submitted as evidence into the record.
Okay, and I'm going to call on our town attorney to advise us on the process and procedure here.
Yes, so they're requesting that both the documents that you've just received and the documents and testimony presented at the first hearing be included into the record. So there can be a motion to decide that, a motion to, and a vote on that.
Okay, I think, that seems pretty straightforward. We've been asked if council will accept the previous documentation and what we just received here to be added as part of the record. Let's get a motion and a second, then we'll have some discussion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to adopt the previous information in this as part of the record. Now there's some discussion. Do any council members have questions, comments, or input on that decision? Hearing none, we'll call for a voice vote on that motion, which was to adopt this as part of the record. All council members in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And just one other bit of housekeeping before I begin. Reinald Stevenson, traffic engineer with DRMP, as well as Nick Kirkland, a licensed appraiser with Kirkland Appraisals. Neither were able to attend tonight's meeting, but did want to, whether it be a motion or voice vote, however you may have it, but accept those two individuals as an expert as it relates to traffic for Mr. Stevenson, and then for Mr. Kirkland, certify him as an expert as it relates to property values and appraisals.
I would think, I'm asking our town attorney again, that was basically covered in the first hearing. Would that be accurate?
They're asking for them to be accepted as experts, so, Mr. Mayor, you can accept them. If any council members object to that, then they could move to set aside your
I
ruling on
understand.
that.
These were the same folks that we heard from before. They were just
Yes.
voted on making their testimony part of the record.
Or as expert witnesses.
Right, so I believe at the first hearing, they weren't actually tendered as expert witnesses, but you did receive information from them and are receiving additional information from them in this hearing.
Do we need a motion, a second, and a vote?
You, as the presiding officer, can accept that. If council members disagree with that, then they can do a motion to disagree with that.
Okay, if there's no objection, I will adopt that statement and look at the previous record as part of this record. Hearing no objection, we'll move ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we've got a host of others behind me that are available for questions. Marcos Vidal is here as a representative from Blue Heron Asset Management. Marty Bizzle and Gary Walston are an engineer and landscape architect, respectively, with B&K. Lindsay Kretschmann is here. She's an architect with Klein Design. Caroline Cheeves is a traffic engineer with DRMP. And Ryan Shively is here as a licensed appraiser with Sutton Shively Appraisals. And again, they are available for questions this evening. So at that August 19th hearing, Mayor Gupton stated that this SUP case is a very unusual situation and couldn't remember when these properties had been rezoned. And it's important to remember that this is a special use permit not to permit apartments within the CMX district or on property zone CMX. This is a special use permit to permit more than 199 apartment units on property zone CMX. And to illustrate the zoning district, the permitted uses therein, we call Mr. Jeff Triesenberg as an expert witness. Good evening, Mr. Triesenberg.
Good evening.
Could you just please state your name and title with the town of Garner?
Yes, Jeff Triesenberg, Planning Director for the town of Garner.
Thank you. And are you also the chair of the Technical Review Committee?
Yes, I am.
Are the three properties that are shown on the screen located in a CMX zoning district?
They are.
Is this a conditional use or a general use CMX zoning district?
This is a general use district.
Have these three properties been zoned CMX general use since the last townwide remapping?
That is correct.
Does the CMX district permit the multifamily more than 4 units per structure or 2,500 square foot footprint use as a by right use?
It currently does.
Does the CMX district require any amount of non-residential space if the properties are developed with a multifamily use?
It currently does not.
Does the UDO require an applicant seeking to use property zone CMX to establish that it considered commercial uses before applying for a special use permit to build 200 plus apartment units?
No.
If Blue Heron submitted a site plan on these 3 properties for 199 apartment units, would a special use permit be required?
At 199 units, that would be a staff level approval.
Did the technical review committee review the site plan associated with the special use permit?
They did.
Do you know how many rounds of review the TRC completed on this site plan?
I do not.
Do you know if it was more than 1?
Yes.
Did the TRC find that this plan meets or exceeds all applicable UDO regulations?
They did.
No further questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Treesenberg. And just moving through this slide here are additional.
I'm sorry. Does council have any questions of the witness?
Yeah, while you're there, let's see if council has any questions about that. Let's start with Mr. Vance down at this end. Any questions for Mr. Treesenberg related to his testimony?
No questions.
Mr. Dellinger?
I just have a question. What does CMX stand for?
It's the abbreviation for commercial mixed use.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Okay, Ms. Behringer? No question. Mr. Singleton?
Nothing.
Mr. Matthews? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And again, just pulling up again the various departments that had reviewed the site plan and found that it did meet or exceed the applicable UDO regulations. If you find this whole special use permit process unusual, you're not alone. The North Carolina Supreme Court has noted various times over the last 45 years that the special use permit process is apparently not too generally understood. As you know, the special use permits are a unique creature of land use law. They are granted in quasi-judicial hearings like this one, in which town council members exercise different powers than you would in your legislative rezoning cases. In special use permit cases, the council does not have the authority to deny a special use permit because a majority does not think it's either the right time or the right place for a permitted use. The council's discretion is limited in these cases because you already made a couple key legislative decisions when you enacted the UDO and you rezoned the property to CMX in 2022. The first decision you made was to allow multifamily residential uses by right in the CMX zoning district. And second, you made the legislative decision to allow a development with 200 or more residential units by right in a CMX district, upon presentation of proof that the development meets the 8 special use criteria detailed in UDO section 4.7.4.d. And as the North Carolina Supreme Court held a few years ago in a case called PHG Asheville LLC v. City of Asheville, the effect of the town's decision to allow 200 or more apartments in the CMX zoning district with a special use permit is to bind the town to the use of quasi-judicial procedures and to exclusive reliance upon the substantive standards enunciated in the relevant provisions of the UDO in determining whether Blue Heron's special use permit should be granted or denied. As a result of specific set of statutes and case law regarding special use permits, the only determination for council in this case is whether Blue Heron has presented material, competent, and substantial evidence that its 257-unit apartment development satisfied the town's 8 special use permit criteria. Council's scope of review in this case is limited because there was no testimony or evidence presented in opposition to the applicant's testimony. Here's what the North Carolina Supreme Court says on the subject. When the applicant meets its burden of presentation to present competent, material, and substantial evidence that its proposed development satisfies the relevant ordinance standards for a special use permit, and no competent, material, and substantial evidence is presented in opposition, the town simply lacks the legal authority to deny. Blue Heron satisfied its burden of persuasion in this SUP case at the August 19th hearing by presenting evidence and testimony that the Yeargan Road Apartments development meets all 8 special use permit criteria. Mr. Triesenberg has testified today that if completed as proposed, the development will comply with all requirements of the UDO. Blue Heron presented evidence and testimony of 4 witnesses, including 2 expert witnesses. Well, I'll back up. Presented evidence and testimony of multiple witnesses to establish that it met all 8 of the special use permit criteria. Kevin Wade of Blue Heron spoke about Blue Heron's development plans for this site. Marty Bizzle, a civil engineer at B&K, spoke about the site layout. Lindsay Kretschmann, an architect with Klein Design, spoke about the design and the architecture that was selected to create a welcoming environment along both US 70 and Yeargan Road. Reinald Stevenson, a traffic engineering expert with DRMP, testified that the proposed development would not endanger public health or safety with regard to traffic. Nick Kirkland, a licensed appraiser with Kirkland Appraisers, testified that this development would not materially impact or negatively impact adjoining property values. And J.D. Bond, architect with Klein Design, also spoke about the architecture and the designs that were selected by Blue Heron. Mayor Gupton said on August 19th that Blue Heron addressed many of the 8 key criteria that it takes to get a special use permit. And Councilmember Dellinger said that I want to point out that the methodical and detailed presentation of the conditions and meeting those conditions and meeting even some of the adverse impacts with regard to the church buffering, those were some of my bigger concerns, and you addressed those in the process. The main concern from council was the desire for commercial uses on this property. Mayor Gupton, Councilmember Vance, Councilmember Behringer, and Councilmember Matthews all had similar comments about the disappointment in the lack of commercial that is not present in this 257-unit apartment project. And a lot of that disappointment was also related back to the comprehensive plan. But council cannot use such concerns to deny a proposed rezoning. Or you could use such concerns to deny a proposed rezoning, as it's a legislative decision, but you cannot use such concerns to justify denying Blue Heron's special use permit request. UDO section 4.7.4.D.1D, which is the 4th finding of fact, states that the fact that the use is permitted under certain circumstances in the zoning district creates a rebuttable presumption that the proposed use is in harmony with the intent of the UDO as it relates to the general zoning plan. The North Carolina Court of Appeals has stated that the inclusion of a use in a zoning district, even where a special use permit is required, establishes a prima facie case that the use conforms with the comprehensive plan. And according to the North Carolina Supreme Court, the Garnered Forward Plan is a policy statement to be implemented by zoning regulations and is generally deemed to be advisory rather than controlling, and it may be changed at any time. It is well established that solely advisory policies contained in the Garner Forward Plan that have not yet been implemented by a provision of the UDO are irrelevant to Blue Heron's special use permit case and are not a proper basis for the council to deny the special use permit application. Turning to the Garner Forward Comprehensive Plan, the character area typology crosswalk on pages 58 and 59 of the Garner Forward Comprehensive Plan that Mayor Gupton pointed out in his comments about consistency with the comprehensive plan readily acknowledge that it is a policy that must be implemented by the UDO to have effect. Page 58, paragraph 1, sentence 1, the character typology map presented in chapter 2 is largely implemented through the town's Unified Development Ordinance. Page 58, paragraph 2, sentence 1. Each zoning district in the UDO provides more detailed interpretation of the broader character areas. The districts take into account site-specific issues or conditions. General statements for the character areas are also refined further in the zoning districts with specific design and development standards created to regulate permitted uses or activities. Page 58, paragraph 3, sentences 1 and 2. Town officials should consider modifications to its UDO immediately that implement policies and recommendations in the comprehensive plan as laws. In essence, this is the process of changing phases with reference to should in the comprehensive plan, which noting references and desired outcomes, to phrases with references to shall in the UDO, which indicate requirements or absolute standards for a development application. Page 58, paragraph 4, sentences 1 and 2. The character area typology crosswalk to the right summarizes the relationship between character areas in the comprehensive plan and zoning districts in the UDO. Town officials should start with this information to identify zoning districts that may need amendments to better implement specific recommendations for various character areas. Essentially what that means, if you want to require that multifamily in a CMX district have some amount of retail, you can do that. You can proffer a text change and you can go through that process. But you cannot do that to Blue Heron in a quasi-judicial case when they are relying on the UDO as it's written today. So to conclude, Blue Heron has met its burden of proof. Council's statements of policy regarding their desire for commercial uses on the property are legally irrelevant. There has been no evidence in opposition to this development. As a matter of well-established North Carolina law, the council lacks the ability to deny Blue Heron's special use permit application. And again, if council has concerns about what's permitted in the CMX district, council can make changes to the UDO for future projects, but it cannot justify denying Blue Heron's special use permit request under the current UDO. If council denies the SUP tonight, Blue Heron will have to pursue other options to preserve its development rights in this property. And thus, we therefore ask that council approve the special use permit utilizing staff's form motion for approval in the packet. We appreciate your time and appreciate the ability to come back this evening. Like I said, our team is available if you have any questions. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Stick around, Mr. Mills. We're going to see if council has some other questions or comments on this. Thank you for the excellent job. Thank you for accurately reporting what I said, that it did indeed meet many of the objectives of the UDO. I think we're still overlooking the point that of the 8 criteria for special use permit, which this is a special use permit, number 4 is that the proposed use is not consistent with the town's et cetera, adopted plans and other relevant adopted plans. And that's where I would continue to hang my hat, which is on our Garner Forward plan. And is it a little bit subjective? Is it a little bit dreamlike? Yes, it is. This in conjunction with the UDO is what we're charged with making decisions on. I was told early on in my orientation as mayor that the UDO is kind of like the building code. It represents the basic things that we have to do. And this is kind of the dream book. This is the guidance that we look at of what is it we're really trying to accomplish, not just the safety of the size of the rafters and the size of the pipe and the wires. So I certainly agree that the applicant has met most of the requirements of the UDO. It has not met, in my opinion, and I don't have a vote, just expressing my opinion, that the request here for SUP does not meet item number 4, because it is not consistent with our long-standing long-range plan. With that being said, I'll be quiet and I'll pass the microphone to the other council members for questions or comments. These are the ones who actually get to vote on the topic. And we'll start down here with Mr. Vance for questions, comments related to the SUP.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, Mr. Dellinger.
As I look through the UDO, I see multiple instances where the comprehensive plan is included by direct reference. With regards to stormwater, the relationship of the proposed use to the comprehensive growth plan and floodplain management program for that area. So there's clearly a connection between our UDO and our comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan is a part of our UDO by reference. So to attempt to encourage us or dissuade us from using it as a guidepost or a policy document when it is clearly included by reference as part of the UDO. It is not separate from the UDO other than the fact that it is a physical separate document. Causes me to look even harder at it as a matter of fact. And as you were speaking, went through and looked at, found 4 or 5 different pages related to natural environment preservation that this project doesn't quite meet. So as I pass the baton down, I'll continue to read over the UDO, thanks to your encouragement, to see those very tight connections that exist between our 2 documents as we weigh the evidence this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Behringer. Mr. Singleton.
Mills, do you have that available on this site plan? Do you have that available on your presentation?
I do know that Mr. Tefelsky had the August 19th presentation available, so I think we can toggle back to that if we need to.
All right. I just wanted clarification. I can read this one. It's not very clear. On this specific site plan, there were 3 points of entry, 1 off Highway 70 and 2 off Yeargan Road, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The one on 70, of course, is right in, right out because it's on a westbound lane. Okay. And the other 2, there were full movements out of both of those driveways onto Yeargan Road, correct?
I'll have to have Ms. Cheeves confirm that. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. If we can get that confirmed. Here comes, we're getting it right now. I know so the first one, Yeargan, has turn lanes. The other back entrance, which is more further to the north, does not. It's just but it is a full. They can turn left. It's a right in and right. It's not just right in, right out on the upper at the point at the top. Correct.
My recollection is both of those on Yeargan are full access.
Full access. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Matthews.
Nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anyone here have a second round?
Yeah, just to read for the record from our UDO, section 1.9.2, comprehensive plan. The most current comprehensive plan is hereby incorporated by reference. Got more. Powers and duties. Comprehensive growth plan administration. Anyway, just submit into record our actual UDO and its reference to our comprehensive plan with regards to guiding our development policies and its relevance to, I believe, condition 4 of the special use permit. Also have concerns with condition 6 and the mitigation of some of the adverse natural impacts to the natural environment, which was another big concern of mine. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions from council at this moment, I will ask if we have had other individuals signed up to speak.
I believe, with the exception of staff, the individuals listed on the sign-in sheet are with the development team.
Okay, just make sure we're not overlooking anybody else who wish to speak. That being the case then, and no further questions from council members at this point, I will close the public hearing and I will ask council members for a motion and a second to approve the special use permit or to deny the permit, and then we will have some more discussion if there's a motion and a second before us. Is there a motion to accept or deny, to permit or deny the special use permit? I'm looking for a motion, yes or no, so that we can have some more discussion and then make a decision.
Mr. Mayor, for that purpose, I will move that we move forward on this, just to get the dialogue going.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the special use permit so that we can have a discussion. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, hearing no second, that motion dies. Is there another motion on the floor related to this special use permit? Okay, we might have to take a short recess while I consult with our attorney. Because we need to have a motion, we need to make a decision on a special use permit here. And we cannot have a vote until we get a motion.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment based off past history and having done this before? That we can approve it or we can deny it, either way. If it gets denied, they're gonna take it to court. A judge is gonna issue an order and say you have to approve it. Just let you know, been there, done that. I've been sued many times over the years. So I'm just telling you, that's what'll happen if it gets denied. I'm not saying not to deny, because I don't particularly like the use of it either, but it is allowed by the use. But if you deny it, you'll get a court order back saying you have to do it, or you'll be in contempt of court. I'm just telling you what's gonna happen. He's been through that too, so.
I'd agree with Mr. Singleton on that. And, you know, my one comment, and since I was mentioned by name on the presentation, which I have no problem with that, on the retail side of it, again, it's somewhere we can meet in the middle on this thing and make this thing work out, which would be beneficial to you guys as well as us. But that is a fabulous corridor right there. And it's a golden opportunity besides apartments that if you guys would take a look at, I think you got room to work something out, and it would be a benefit, another amenity to those choosing to live out there. So I'm just offering that up for consideration because, like Grace says, I know how it can go. So I'm just tossing that back to you for your consideration to see what we can do about being good neighbors, maybe come to a good agreement here. I think it would benefit you as well as those people living out there. So for what that's worth, you can take it and do with it.
Okay, so it sounds like we're having a little discussion in the absence of a motion. Mr. Vance.
Yes, and I would like to also add, understanding what Councilman Singleton has said, which is true, and also what I hear Councilman Matthews saying is in line in my mind with the commercial mixed use of thought process for a property. And then as we begin and as we look at how the town is developing, and with the limited areas of development, it becomes incumbent upon the council to think closely as to those areas where the use of the property will be more in line with what we believe as a council, based upon the comprehensive plan, will be the best benefit for the citizens as a whole. And by it being in this commercial corridor, and with the growth that we're now seeing, in my mind as a council person, looking at it at the comprehensive plan, it's imperative that we start looking at, okay, what's the best benefit for the citizens going forward overall? In my mind, commercial mixed use would be the best benefit for this property, but also understanding what Mr. Singleton has said places us in a position where it's a difficult position for us to be in, knowing we know the future, the direction the town is going, and we also know the need to bring in commercial to better serve our citizens. So I believe it's imperative that we look at that going forward. We be more critical, looking at the various projects that are coming forward, to say that if it's necessary for us to make those modifications, that those modifications be made early on, and discussion is made with the development community early on, so that they can know the desires of the council as it comes to not only looking at the residential growth, but also the commercial growth, to make it beneficial for the overall community at large. So I said all that to say that we've been in a similar situation before, where Mr. Singleton has many years of experience with us. I would say, so to continue on with this process without going through the necessary litigation, that we just move forward with this one, but for future references, know that we are looking at the properties and the developments going forward more critically when it comes to what the uses will be relative to Garner going forward, because we're looking at not only for this particular property owner and their desired uses, but we're also looking at for what's good for the overall citizens of Garner. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dillinger, other thoughts, comments?
Yeah, my take is much more simple, and particularly within the confines of a special use permit on condition 4 and its failure to meet condition 4 of being consistent with a comprehensive plan. It is inconsistent with page 31, quality of life, which references natural environment, is inconsistent with fiscal sustainability and stewardship, or long-term fiscal sustainability, land use, economic vitality, right sizing of the community, that's page 32. Page 110, 123, 142. Those fall under number 4. Number 6. I believe the last time there was inconsistent sort of clarity on the preservation of the tree canopy with regards to what's on the side of 70, whether it's in the right of way, whether the turn-in was going to be in the right of way and leaving those or not. I find there's not sufficient mitigation for that. There are several mentions, and I will not go through all of them, of our comprehensive plan, which I submit as evidence for tree canopy preservation and preservation of natural environment, character, and quality of life for the town of Garner and its residents. So just on numbers 4 and 6, I find that it has not met the threshold based on the evidence permitted and the documents presented to us as evidence. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, we've heard a lot of discussion. We still don't have a motion on the floor. I will support Mr. Dillinger here in saying that clearly this does not comply with the long-term plan, which is item number 4. There is room for judgment here. There is room for difference of opinions. This is what makes America a great place. We get to have different opinions. We use our judgment. I certainly respect the historical perspective of courts doing this and doing that. Very difficult to predict. I still believe we should stick to our guns, go by our long-range plan that we've worked on for a long time. That is one and the same. We're not just going for the lowest common denominator as approved in the UDO, but in the reference materials that are incorporated in the UDO, such as the comprehensive long-range plan and the items that it specifies. So that's my editorial. I'm asking again, we had a motion to approve this that failed for lack of a second. Is there a motion to deny this SUP?
Mr. Dillinger, you pointed out some concerns in items 4 and item 6. Why don't you make a motion with those concerns and we'll see where it goes?
Who make the motion?
Mr. Dillinger brought up points of concern.
Did you make a motion? Did you make a motion?
No, I said Mr. Dillinger brought out some points of concern in items 4, item 4 and item 6. If you want to make a motion to oppose it, or I don't know. I'm not sure how he feels.
Just making comments for the record.
I'm going to ask our attorney for advice. We had a motion that failed to approve. We're not getting another motion. Help me out.
In reviewing the UDO, there is not a time frame put on special use permits for making a decision. So if there's additional evidence that you think would clarify this, you could reopen the public hearing and ask the applicant to provide that. But unless there's a motion with a second, council's not able to act.
Okay, elaborate a little bit for us here. Put that in, or somebody translate it for me.
So under the procedural rules, motions require a second before you can take any action. So unless there is a motion that has been properly seconded, there's no action to be taken, or that can be taken.
And then what happens next?
That's an interesting question.
I say America's a great place. And sometimes we're going out on a limb here.
I have a question. It seems that a lot of this issue hinges on the fact that we have requested some commercial development and the applicant is not willing to do that. why are you not willing to have some commercial development on that property?
Are you reopening the hearing to receive that?
Sure. Mr. Mills, would you mind coming back up and help us address another question that's arisen?
Tough time to be an attorney, isn't it?
Always. So we did look at including commercial. The problem here is the loss of units that results from including commercial, as well as the additional parking that those uses would generate. We are right at our parking limit and did not think that we could make this project viable by including commercial uses.
I hear you, but that seems to be an us against them position because we need the commercial in our town. And I feel like you're telling us, well, you can't have it because we need to make more money. There's not a working together in this situation that we need.
The Court of Appeals case, that PHG Asheville LLC v. Asheville case, sort of considered the same question, where you've got a quasi-judicial permit, a municipality asking for specific use to be included in that site plan. In that ruling, the Court of Appeals ruled that the council is not authorized to dictate uses on site, as this amounts to effectively rezoning the property. So I understand the concerns, but just in terms of the type of decision that's being made here, quasi-judicial versus legislative, those types of demands turn this from a quasi-judicial hearing into a legislative hearing, and that is not what we want to do here.
Then are you saying that we have no control over what's developed in our town?
You do. It's in the UDO use table.
May I make just a comment that the reason special use permits exist is because a particular project will have a disproportionate impact on the community, and the quasi-judicial process is there to mitigate the negative impacts of that outsized project. Some of those can be physical and natural. Some of them can be fiscal negative adverse impacts, and we need to account for those as well. And those are also covered pretty comprehensively in our comprehensive plan. So I think that it is not just a legislative decision. It is actually less of a legislative decision, and it is more an objective decision based on very strict criteria. That's why the process is set up this way, that we take our knowledge of the town and our policies and procedures and needs of the town and adverse impacts we perceive by a project and weigh those against those criteria. And that is where I feel the project falls short. And it's not legislative, it's not opinion-based, it's fact-based and data-based on documents that we've produced and invest taxpayer money into to scope a vision for the town. And a lot of that vision is around natural environment, and a lot of it is around fiscal sustainability. So again, along those criteria, along condition 4, again, reiterate, I don't think that it meets that threshold. That's not a question, so you don't need to respond.
Thank you. We continue to have some meaningful discussion here, and there are differences of opinion. We're not trying to be the court. There's always a court there to make another decision. We're trying to apply the information that we have to go by and make the best decisions for our town. That's where we are. And so far, one motion to approve was made. It died for lack of a second. I'll ask one more time. Is there another motion on the floor? Are we going to continue this to a further date? I'm asking our attorney here as we seek some other information so that council can make a motion and get a second so it can be discussed and voted on. I'm asking for guidance here.
Certainly, if there was a motion to deny it and then based on evidence that you either heard or did not find in the two hearings before you, the one on August 19th and the one this evening, and there was a second to that, then you could take action to deny it. But we don't have a mechanism for when there's no motion. And as far as the implications of that as to whether there's even an appellate right at this point, I can't render an opinion to you tonight on that. It would take more time. But I have reviewed our UDO, and we don't have a requirement, unlike some other jurisdictions that say if council doesn't make a determination in a certain amount of time, it is deemed approved. We don't have, I'm going to ask Mr. Treesberg, I have not seen that in our UDO that puts a, so to speak, shot clock on council to make a decision.
Okay. Well, I do not believe it's the council's intention to drag this along artificially or arbitrarily. I believe it deserves a decision. Somehow we're still struggling for the right information to help somebody make a motion, then a second to either approve or deny, continue the discussion, and then have a vote. So it could be that we continue this for 30 days, some definitive period. Again, I'm just throwing this out. Is there a motion to do that? Is that legal and semi-reasonable? I know we're all subject to review for decisions made or not made. I'm just looking for a way to move forward that's legally correct.
Right. You've reopened the public hearing, and you certainly can continue that, but it would be helpful to have some guidance on what additional information you would need in order to make a motion and second a motion.
Okay. And
if there's additional evidence that you, or questions that you'd like to, say, recall the appraiser or the traffic engineer about this, my understanding is they're not present tonight. If you wish to ask questions of their designer about how they designed this project, or questions of Mr. Treesenberg about the comprehensive plan and the UDO, you certainly have that option as the hearing has been reopened.
Terry, we do have a traffic engineer and an appraiser here. That can answer the question.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
So certainly any of the witnesses that spoke before that you need to hear more about in order to render whether that is substantial material and competent evidence, you have the ability to ask those questions of those witnesses.
Do council members have any questions for those two expert witnesses?
I don't. I have a question with regards to continuing it for the council to get more legal counsel from its own counsel.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Yes, you could continue it and then go into closed session. I'm not prepared to give you any opinion on the fact that there's no action taken.
Okay. Is it possible to get a motion to continue this for a time certain date while we get further legal advice at how to move forward on this particular issue?
I'll make that motion that it be continued until the December 16th meeting, 2025.
Second.
Okay, hang on just a second. Just let me record here that we have had a motion from Mr. Singleton and a second from Ms. Behringer to postpone this until December 16th. With that in mind, please go ahead, Mr. Wills. Mr. Mills.
Yes, sir. The state law says that in determining these cases, council has reasonable time to sort of determine, evaluate contested facts. There are no contested facts in this case. The only people that have put on evidence, and we put on a lot of it, is the applicant. There's been no one from the public that has spoken in opposition, and it is not legally sound to substitute your judgment as counsel for the expert testimony that was given in August and tonight. So we would ask that you make a motion and approve it or deny it.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Ms. Jones, further comments or input for us as we struggle with this item?
If you bear with me,
Yes, certainly.
Mr. Mayor, while we're waiting, could I make a comment?
Yes.
So,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
So
I see-
looking at chapter 160D, section 406J, it does say that the board shall determine contested facts and make its decision within a reasonable time. It does not define what a reasonable time is. So again, additional legal research would have to be done to see if there is any case law out there that defines that. But you had a public hearing, you continued it to tonight, you had some additional evidence presented. Not making a decision tonight, I don't believe, puts you out of the reasonable time, particularly if there's additional evidence or questions that you need to have evaluated with respect to the evidence that's been presented or not presented in this case.
Okay, thank you. So your opinion is that it could be reasonable to postpone this for the 30 days, December 16th, as the motion's been made and seconded, as we seek further information, whether it's factual or legal or some combination of trying to make a good decision. There's a motion made and seconded for continuance.
Yeah.
Okay, we've heard some discussion. I guess we should take a vote on will we make this continuation, continue this hearing until December 16th. That's the motion made and seconded. And let's go with a roll call vote. Aye, if you're in favor of approving that motion and continuing this open until December 16th. Let's start with Mr. Matthews.
Aye.
Mr. Singleton.
Aye.
Mr. Behringer.
Aye.
Mr. Dellinger.
Aye.
Mr. Vance.
Aye.
Okay, that's 5 in favor of continuing this hearing open until December 16th. So that's to pass unanimously. Thank you for your input. That's the decision as of this evening. We'll do our best to move ahead in an orderly fashion at that time. Thank you, Mr. Mills. Thank you. Okay. Well, that was one of the tougher ones for this evening. Let's move along to something fun like committee reports. Here's updates to council. Let's recognize some council members who wish to make reports from the committee that they're assigned to. And let's start down there with Mr. Vance.
No committee reports.
Mr. Dellinger?
No reports.
Ms. Behringer?
Yes, the Public Art Committee will meet Thursday, November 20th at 5:30 at Town Hall.
Yeah, man. Art. Mr. Singleton?
Yes, sir.
Regarding to the Veterans Day event, I want to thank everybody for being a part of that. It was probably one of the best ones we ever had, and the attendance was wonderful, and a lot of those folks right here in the audience, and the feedback I've got has been truly great. And so we're already working on the next one, so it don't slow down. But thanks to the board for the support of the veterans and what we're trying to accomplish. And there's a couple of things we're going to be looking to do to maybe improve our memorial out there, make it more like it should be. So, but thank you again. And I want to appreciate Rick. He did a video. I got to look at it tonight, so check it out. And it was well done as always. And keep it up there. A lot of people want to see that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Great work all around on everybody who helped with all the recognition of the veterans on Veterans Day. Very special thing. Let's see. So much for committee reports. Let's move to manager reports. You've been awful quiet tonight, Ms. Miller.
Well, Mayor and members of council, good evening. Looking at your council updates, the first manager report is your November Talk of the Town report, and I'll ask Mr. Hodges to review the highlights of the report. Mr. Hodges?
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Most of the items in our Talk of the Town report are holiday announcements. Several of those are going to be covered later in our Economic Development report by Ms. Wood, but I will draw your attention to a few of the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Resources sponsored events. The GPAC is having the It's Showtime Evening with Sade on this Friday, and then the Big Band's holiday concert will be on December the 11th. The holiday block party will be held on Saturday, December 8th from 2 to 4 at the Garner Rec Center, and Cookies and Cocoa with Santa will be on Friday, December 12th at 5:30 to 7:30 at the GRC. And again, Ms. Wood will cover some of the other items in her report later. You do also have your monthly analytics. Most of the top items for this reporting period are miscellaneous street items, pothole and pavement repair, and street sign maintenance. keeping in mind that these are items that are submitted through our Garner Info app, and these do not include all of the many proactive cases that our team is out working on a number of other categories each and every day. I'll be happy to answer any questions about the Talk of the Town.
Okay.
Okay. If there are no questions, our second report this evening is our Development Services update for Q3. So, Mr. Hodges?
Thank you again, Ms. Miller. Our Development Services update, as council may remember, we've designed this to be an update to council and to the public, but also one that we share with our development community. So some of the information included there are things that council is already aware of, but we'll be sharing this out with our development community. Each of our Development Services departments contributes to this report. We are featuring our Gregory Poole announcement from Economic Development for this quarter. Planning is featuring our transportation plan kickoff, and you'll be hearing more about that from planning in the next month or so. So I won't give a lot of details about that tonight because you recently heard some of that when the contract was being reviewed. And then our engineering team has provided some information about enhanced ways that we're using GIS to get some of the work that our engineering team is doing every day. And so you'll be hearing more about that in the future as well. And also in this report, we also include our quarterly development statistics. You'll see on the last page there, we still are seeing some pretty significant numbers each month. This quarter, we are down a little bit from the previous quarter. We don't believe that this is a long-standing trend. We believe there's some circumstantial things, but our total permits are 845, down from about 950 last quarter. Single-family permits are down a little below about half of what they were last period. Our total CO issues are actually up, so 546 compared to around 500 last time. Total inspections completed, 12,000 is below we had last period, but that's still a significant number of inspections that our team are out completing. Our code compliance cases are about the same for the quarter, and then our fire inspections conducted were more than double last period during this reporting period. If you have any questions about the Development Services statistics or the update report, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
All right. There are no questions. Our final report this evening is the quarterly economic development report. I'll invite Mr. Groover and Ms. Wood to come to the podium and provide updates on the report.
Hello, Mayor and Town Council. Thank you for having us tonight. So Launch Garner, they have submitted their video interviews, the applicants have, and they are currently being reviewed. And we will be notifying them by Thanksgiving as to whether or not they have been accepted into the Launch Garner program. And then the orientation will start January 8th, and that program will run for 10 weeks, so it will end March 19th. Also, with the Main Street program, we had our board retreat, our annual meeting earlier this month. We are welcoming 2 new board members, Tori Beatty and Karen Punch, and we are excited to see what they will bring to the board. Super excited about that. Do I need to move? Scroll it up. Okay. Thank you. And we also finalized our dates for 2026, so we will be adding those to our website so that we can market those, go ahead and market those events. And earlier this evening, I was at Paint on Main, a meeting. We had over 20 people in downtown. They will be painting this Saturday, and then we will be unveiling their artwork on the storefronts at Light Up Main, which will be November 29th. This is the annual tree lighting, which will start at 6 o'clock. Earlier that day to support Small Business Saturday. We will have different experiences in some of the downtown storefronts. Santa will also be there, and then Santa and the mayor will light the tree at 6 p.m.
Perfect. Thank you, April. And I want to go back just because April's a little bit more humble, and I want to take a chance to brag on her regarding the Launch Garner cohort this year. So we had the largest number of applicants we've ever had, and looking forward to a class, like she mentioned, of 12 for next year. So want to give her a pat on the back and kudos for her good work on that. I will say she is relentless in trying to get volunteers. So all the events that you're seeing downtown this year, especially focused on the holidays, I want to point out, there's an event this Saturday before Thanksgiving, an event the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So just want to be sure to give Ms. Wood proper credit and, thanks and appreciation for all of her good work. And I think it's noticeable with the change of activity and everything going on downtown that, she deserves a lot of credit for that. Moving right along, I know I'm in a dangerous place here because closing out the night. So for those of you that didn't have the opportunity to attend, we had the Garner Impact Conference in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. That was very well attended. Ms. Wood and I provided our annual update at that conference. We gave a little teaser because that was obviously before the Gregory Pool announcement. So we just let them know that next year's event, obviously, we'd still be celebrating the success for that announcement that obviously we had not announced yet. So that conference was very well attended, and Mr. Hodges led a much appreciated transportation panel with all of our regional transportation partners that provided updates that were very well received. Again, I want to make sure that we are recognizing Project Cougar again. So not only is it in the development services update, it's obviously in our quarterly update here. So just want to give again, thanks to you for making this project possible. And I will close this out here with our quarterly stats as far as our request for information goes from our partners at EDPNC and Wake County. 39 received RFIs representing about 12,000 jobs and about $7 billion investment. And while I'm speaking about our partners at Wake County, had a great day yesterday touring the two newest project managers for Wake County Economic Development. And you may ask why that's important. Well, it's important because these are the folks that we work with, obviously, at the county on recruiting new business and helping businesses staying here in Garner. So with them being new to the team, it was very important for me to, welcome them to Garner, give them a tour, show them around. And they appreciated that, got them some good barbecue, and highlighted the town and all the good work that we're doing. So that's it for tonight. Welcome any questions you have, and thank you for your time.
Any questions for our presenters here? Okay, thank you. Excellent job. Keep up the good work. A lot of exciting stuff. Ms. Miller.
Yes, and just a final reminder, Ms. White mentioned it at the beginning of our meeting that the town is still hosting a food drive to be able to share with our local food pantries. We're collecting at all our public facilities, and we'll be doing that through next week. So we encourage staff, council, members of our community to come visit and provide some donations so that we can get them to our local food banks. So thank you.
Thank you. That moves us along to attorney reports. Anything else, Ms. Jones?
No report tonight.
For tonight, more to come. And that brings us to council reports, things that were not reported in the committee report. Let's start with Mr. Matthews. Any other council report you'd like?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Singleton?
I would like to say thank you for the Veterans Committee and the work everyone did, the staff on the Veterans Day ceremony. It was very nice. You said well attended. It's neat having two World War II veterans there. Very, very meaningful. And so I just want to thank y'all for that work that you did. And we'll see what happens here on December 16th for this case. It'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Back on the pleasant topic of the veterans, not only the two World War II veterans, but a brigadier general who went to Garner High School was our keynote speaker, and he spoke to us on the level we understood. Yeah. Thank you for lining that up. That was a great event. Ms. Behringer.
Yes, two things. I have a question. The Thanksgiving lunch with the police department tomorrow, where is the location? Okay, thank you. And then one to add to Councilmember Singleton's remarks. I think it was over 20 years ago, we had an issue with a company that wanted to build a second motel in town, like in-town suites, and we didn't. I was not on the council then, but it was denied, and they sued us, but they never built the motel. And with the headaches that we've had with in-town suites, we have to look at it and say, was it worth being sued to not get the hotel? I don't want these folks to sue us either, but this is our town, and they need to have a different approach with working with us.
Thank you.
And to clarify, the citizens in Greenbrier hired an attorney also and went to the court case, and the judge upheld the denial, which was rare, and they decided not to pursue it. But the folks in Greenbrier hired an attorney, and as someone told me, they got the right judge on the right day at the right time. But anyway, that was a long time ago. You're right. It was on gonna be on 401. It was gonna basically be the backside.
Yeah,
So it was gonna be
Greenbrier.
one on each side. So you're correct.
Thank you for the historical perspective. Mr. Dallinger.
Yes, just a comment on a chill I had this afternoon and some thoughts that how grateful I am and blessed we are that we have and understand and know what well-trained law enforcement looks like in Garner and how much we take that for granted and how community focused they are and how people want to serve here. And it came to mind as I was driving home from work this afternoon, going down 70 and then turn on Timber, and there was a car behind me and I was looking in my rearview mirror, just paying attention. And there were two Latino men in the car behind me. And I was just watching and stoplight or whatever. And, maybe you read it too much. They looked nervous. They were looking around and looking at the whole time they were driving, they were looking left and looking right. And I don't know what their status was. I don't know any of that, but they were afraid. They looked nervous. And it's really sad when innocent people are afraid. And that's just not Garner. It struck me as people felt unsafe or could feel unsafe going through Garner. So I just want to say thanks to our own police department and staff, and really brought into sharp focus what a great community we have. And we'll stick together, and I've had constituents and residents just hearing from them doing their own things and preparations and communications to look out for our fellow residents. And this too shall pass, but it put into focus what a great community we are, and we should always be looking out for each other. So that was my only thought.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Vance?
But yes, I'd like to say also what has been already mentioned. The Veterans Day celebration was great. It was thoroughly enjoyed. And my hats off to the Veterans Advisory Committee for all the hard work they put there. There's no doubt it's going in and it's showing clearly. And we had, on the Veterans Day, we also had another special event with the Coming Home Key celebration for a veteran who was injured while in the service, a special forces sergeant, and were able to participate in the gifting of a home to him right here in Garner. So that was a great celebration there. And then we had the Youth Garner Leadership time here, and right here in the council hall with two high schools, South Garner and Garner Magnet High right here. And they were in the positions of the various council members having to come up with various proposals for requesting for funding. And I just saw the future leaders of Garner right there with those young people. So my hats off to Mr. Groover and also Ms. Wood for all the hard work you're putting in there. And we do have a great town, and that's all I got to say.
Well, that was enough said, and boy, the Youth Leadership Council, that was something else. You talk about looking in the face of the future. Those three young ladies that responded to my question just knocked it out of the park.
It is.
And by the way, the gentlemen didn't raise their hands. The young ladies were the ones answering my question.
Of course.
Yes.
Obviously. If there's no further business or no further announcements, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a motion in 3 or 4 seconds there, so I would ask all in favor of adjournment, please drop your hand back there in the back and make a big racket. If you're in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.